Hello, good evening and welcome to News at 10 on TV3 with me, Martin Asiedu-Dartey. My name is Martin Asiedu-Dartey. Coming up within the next 30 minutes, here are the major highlights of stories making the rounds. Workers of the Pantanal Psychiatric Hospital have called off their strike following an intervention by the health minister and other stakeholders. The minister has assured the workers of engaging with the owners of the properties, lands and natural resources ministry and local government ministry. The University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, has given government 2 weeks to pay its book and research allowance and also constitute the university councils. UTAG, after its emergency National Executive Council meeting in Accra, warned that failure of government to comply would disrupt academic work and forestall the upcoming congregations. And still on education, the Minister of Education has directed the newly inaugurated National Accreditation Board to clamp down on civil society groups in the education sector. According to the minister, the groups claim to provide quality teaching and learning for pupils and students. And farmers affected by the fall armyworms are yet to be compensated. Answering questions on the floor of Parliament, a Deputy Minister of Food and Agriculture said the ministry is currently assessing the situation and will soon come out with a plan. Elsewhere around the world, state officials in Nevada are considering emergency measures to deal with the lack of marijuana. Demand has been strong since recreational use was legalized in July, the 1st of July. Nevada voted in favor of legalizing recreational use of marijuana in November, following similar moves in several other states. Medical use of marijuana is permitted in 25 states, including Nevada, where it has been legal since 2001. So those are the major stories making rounds, and we are now bringing you the big one. And for the big one this evening, workers of the Pantanal Psychiatric Hospital in Accra have called off their strike following an intervention by the health minister and other stakeholders. The minister has assured the workers of engaging with the owners of the properties that were on their lands, the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry and the local government ministry.
The workers in the early hours of Tuesday morning marched from the hospital's premises to the main Adentan highway, the Adentan barrier, and back to the hospital premises. They held placards with some reading, "Halt development on Pantanal lands now," "Stop development or no work, Mr. President," and "Resist encroachment of Pantanal hospital lands." The workers later converged at the psychiatric OPD, where they were addressed by their leadership and the medical director of the Pantanal Psychiatric Hospital, Dr. Frank Bunning, who said management has been working towards finding a lasting solution to the issue. The workers waited for the minister chanting songs. The Minister of Health, Kwekwajiman Menu, and his team finally met with the leadership of the striking workers in a closed-door meeting, after which he addressed the media.
We have seen what is going on here. The developments apparently encroaching on Pantanal Hospital's lands, blocking the whole facade of the huge facility that we have here. And I don't think that is the best. The proposal and my plea. So they will get back to it tomorrow. That was the understanding. And I thank them for that decision. But then the condition is that they will give us some little time to see how best we can tackle the matter, engage the matter. So from here, what I plan doing is to engage my colleague ministers in lands and natural resources and the Minister of Local Government to see how we can bring this matter to a halt. The whole point is that government has interest in that area.
Leader of the striking workers, Elvis Ekwuamwa, says they are content with government's intervention. He assured the workers would be back at work on Thursday, 13th July.
The agreement is that government has interest in the land in front of the hospital for public good, and so he should temporarily halt operations or development for processes to commence to compulsorily acquire the land space for public good. And so this actually meets our expectation. We are going to be dialoguing with hospital management, and I'm sure they are also going to be dialoguing with the ministry. And so we are going to have access to what is being done to put effect to the agreement that has been reached so far.
Patients who attend the Pantanal Psychiatric Hospital tomorrow, Thursday, 13th July, are therefore assured of full services from the nurses. AC Benewanyame, TV3, Pantanal Psychiatric Hospital.
We are staying with this subject matter a while longer because we would want to find out whether as a country or as a nation we have taken the concern of mental health staff and their leadership seriously, and whether or not we have been toying with the idea of practicing serious mental health, the right way to handle it. We've been joined via Skype by Badimak Peter Yaro. He is the Chief Executive of Basic Needs Ghana and joins us from the Northern Regional Capital of Tamale this evening. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, Martin, and thank you for having me.
To start with, what would your assessment be as a country when it comes to fighting or helping mental health?
Well, this is an off-to question that we have always had to respond to, and it's coming up every now and then because the desired support and change we want to see in mental health is not coming. So we would keep asking this question: when would we see seriousness in the mental health front on the part of the powers that be? Much as healthcare workers, leaders in the mental health front, and civil society try to drum home the need for the powers that be, and particularly government, to give some bit of more attention to mental health, it doesn't seem to yield the results practically as desired. Usually, as we would have heard from the Honorable Minister, the pronouncements are quite positive that there is an intent and desire to support mental health and improve the situation.
Right.
And usually that is just where it ends.
Could it be that it is because we don't have the legal backing, from Parliament, or at least some legal documentation to help us navigate these waters? Because as it stands now, we know that the legislative instrument on the Mental Health Act 2012 is yet to be passed. Could it be that because we don't have that in place, we really are not showing serious signs when it comes to mental health?
You are very right. That is a key part of it, the absence of the legal legislative instrument for the mental health law. But Martin, that is also just trying to play ostrich, because we have enough laws existing laws and legislations that can fully do justice to mental health without waiting for a separate law, be it on the basis of human rights as our Constitution guarantees everyone, be it on health, as everybody has a right to, be it on education, be it on employment. So yes, to box it to the fact that this separate law that focuses on mental health and its absence of a legislative instrument to have it operationalized amounts to just excluding it and thinking that mental health cannot be well fitted into various sectors.
So from where you said
everyday living.
From what you said, we have enough laws to at least get us on a good footing in terms of treating and dealing with issues of mental health as a country.
Very much so. Very much so. For me, the mental health law is, you may put it, the icing on the cake, but we are not short of legal laws, legalities, guidelines, policies that we can use to justify and mainstream mental health. For example, this issue of the lands. Let's talk about what an ideal health facility should look like and its surroundings should look like. It will tell you that a lot of excesses are being committed there, and we are flaunting the laws and regulations and standards for establishing healthcare facilities. So that alone could have been used to prosecute or prevent encroachers from attempting, even whilst we think that a legislative instrument is not passed.
So why do we place culpability in this scenario? Is it lack of willingness from government or civil society? Where would you think that the blame should be placed?
I should say that I have been in mental health work in Ghana for quite a substantial time now, and we have the benefit of seeing both dominant party governments, NDC and MPP government. And I would say squarely that it's one of lack of political commitment on behalf of political leaderships. We are all here when, without having to say some national issues are less, that when it comes to finding money to do certain things, including celebrations of anniversaries, the money's come. So it's one of political will. And if we can, out of nowhere, find money to celebrate certain events, that probably in the last budget was not available, but quickly funding was found for it, then it begs the question why we keep saying that there isn't enough funding to support mental health. So that is how I think it is purely an issue of political leadership.
My final question then would be, so minus government, certainly they play a critical role, but aside what government can do, what can civil society, the Ghanaian citizenry, what else can be done to at least help us ensure that issues concerning even health in general and mental health specifically are given the necessary attention?
Well, let me still dwell on government, because government gives policy direction and leadership. So, for example, when you think about building numbers of psychiatrists or community mental health workers or clinical psychologists, we know history tells us at independence there were certain intentional directives or directions, policy directions, to boost certain human resource capacities and numbers. We can do such a thing to say this is a neglected area, we need to boost the numbers.
Right.
For example, give incentives for people to train as psychiatrists, scholarships for people to go into clinical psychology, social work from the point of view of supporting mental health, occupational therapies, do massive infrastructure support, and let health authorities kind of even have performance contracts on which mental health is a key area to appraise somebody on as a health manager or an in charge of a health facility. These are directives that can bring about the needed change. For civil society, yes, we would continue to raise the issue. We have little bits of resources. but they will never match what government and national resources have.
Can do.
But the bit we
Thank
can
you.
always do is, as you have given us this opportunity, to keep on talking about it and bringing government's attention to it.
For the needed change. Thank you. Thank you so much for making time to speak with us. Badimak Peter Yaro is the Chief Executive of Basic Needs Ghana, sharing his thoughts on issues regarding mental health. What do you also think? Do let us know on our various social media platforms, and we will be glad to read it to the rest of the world. This is still News at 10 on TV3. Stay with us. We'll be back. Thank you very much for staying with us. Let's turn our attention to agriculture now. And farmers affected by the fall armyworm disease are yet to be compensated. Answering questions on the floor of Parliament earlier today, a Deputy Minister of Food and Agriculture said the ministry is currently assessing the situation and will soon come out with a plan.
The Deputy Minister was responding to questions by MP for Mion, Mohamed Abdulaziz, on what remedial action the ministry was taking to tackle the fall armyworm outbreak.
It is estimated to be affecting 112,812 hectares of farmlands, with an estimated 14,430 hectares destroyed completely.
The Deputy Minister added that affected farmers were yet to be compensated.
About 112,812 hectares have been affected, but only about 14,430 hectares have been destroyed completely. About 6% that has been completely destroyed.
The minister also answered questions from MP for North Tong, Samuel Okujetu-Ablakwa, on steps the ministry was taking to operationalize the dairy plant at Juapong in the Volta region. The Deputy Minister said government had entered into a memorandum of understanding with Mrs. Simpol Limited. He indicated the company had promised to complete renovation by the fourth quarter of this year and possibly commence operation soon after.
And we've been joined on the phone line by Edward Karewe. He is the General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union, GAU, and would want to put a few questions to him about the extent of damage done by these fall armyworms, and then also how government's fight has gone so far. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, good evening.
It's been a few weeks after the invasion of the fall armyworms. What would your assessment be in terms of the progress in fighting these fall armyworms?
Well, the fall armyworm visits to this country over the period has shown that it has been advancing. You know, given the statistics, we started with about 5,000 to 10,000, and then now to over 100,000 hectares of farms have been affected. This tells us that the fall armyworm has actually advanced, and we have not been able to abate its advancement. This is the situation today.
And juxtaposing the extent of damage you mentioned and the fact that government put in some amount of effort to fight it, would you say we've made significant progress, or at least we've barely scratched the surface?
Well, it would have been the best for us, or good news for all of us, to hear that we have made progress. But if you look at the statistics, it doesn't show that we have made progress. The reality is this: the fall armyworm is alien to this environment. It is not an African armyworm. It has migrated to this area in search of a greener pasture, where it can be comfortable to do whatever it wants to do. And indeed, it has actually discovered that and invaded our farmland. You know, that is why it got to a point we thought that we must treat this issue as a very urgent issue. And for that matter, we need to have a state of emergency on this particular fall armyworm, so that we can marshal all the resources and deal with it.
Had it reached that level for which we would have to declare a state of emergency? Because from the statistics that was mentioned by the Deputy Minister, just about 14,430 hectares of farmlands have been destroyed. That's give or take about 6%. And so 6%, even less than 10 or less than 20%, does it qualify for a national disaster, a national emergency status?
Yeah, but in the same statistics, that over 112,000 hectares of farms have been affected. He's talking about those that have been completely destroyed, which is 14,000.
Right.
But the total number that he has given, which has been affected, is over 100,000 hectares. You know, the fact about the fall armyworm is this. Of course, the natural factors, as we are having more rains coming, also help to reduce their effect. But that is not the end of it.
Right.
The fall armyworm also it can easily get resistance to the chemicals that we are using. So when you are fighting it, you need to clear it within a short period. Otherwise, it will develop resistance to the chemicals that we are using. And then when it comes back, you may not even be able to deal with it. That is why we need to declare a state of emergency to marshal all resources, both human and logistics, to deal with it within a short period of 2 weeks.
Okay.
That is what it means, so that thereafter we can proceed without the fall armyworm.
Okay, let's look at the concern here. So for the farmers who have lost their produce, for that 14,000 and over farmlands that have been completely destroyed, government is saying that they are yet to receive compensation. Have their concerns come to your desk, and how do you think this can be quickly resolved?
Well, it is something that government must look at seriously. Because given government's own statistics, that 14,000 hectares of farmlands have been destroyed completely. Okay. If that is the case, then it is the next thing is to make available the compensation.
Okay.
To look at compensation for those that have been affected but not completely destroyed. So it falls within government's purview, first and foremost, now that they have got the statistics, and then secondly, just to look for the resources and compensate the farmers so that they could have a decent life to live.
Okay.
And be able to take care of their families.
Their farms. Thank you. Thank you so much, Edward Karewe, for your time. He is the General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union, GAU. Let's also speak to someone who is in the heart of the campaign to get government's effort in fighting these fall armyworms. Charles Naba is the Programs Officer for Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
As it stands now, we are told compensation is yet to reach some of your colleagues whose farms have been completely destroyed. How are they reacting to the fact that government is yet to pay them or give them some level of compensation?
Thank you. I think it's a disappointment to them, those whose farms are affected, especially those who took part in the government program, that is the Planting for Food and Jobs. You know, there are farmers who were doing some small size of farms, but because of the government support, they went in to expand their farms with the hope that they were going to benefit from the inputs.
Right.
Unfortunately for them, they lost most of their farms because of the false armyworms. Many have actually invested so much money to buy their own pesticides to control them. But as we know, as we speak, there is no any effective pesticide which is yet to be effective to control the worms. So it's a sign of disappointment.
But in your dealings and engagements with government, have they given any assurance or timelines maybe of how quickly they will be able to come to your aid financially?
You know, the last time we had engagement with the Deputy Minister, he said there is no resources allocated for compensation. And
there's no resource allocated for compensation.
And they've not made provision for that, which I think that is something that we all need to be thinking about. Because if you have a big project or a program like a Planting for Food and Jobs, you need to make provision for risks.
Right.
And even if you look at agriculture sector budget in general, there hasn't been any allocation for risk management. And you cannot roll out a program like this without expecting that you have a risk. It could be in the form of low rainfall. It could be in the form of any other thing. So we need to always make provision for risk management. But in this case, we don't have such a facility.
Okay. Mr. Naba, thank you for making time to speak with us. Hopefully in the coming days, we'll find out from government what their plans are with regard to the compensation for farmers. Charles Naba is the Programs Officer for the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. Let's look at education. Now, the Ekropong School for the Blind has appealed for more security personnel for its premises. The headmistress, Mahala Na, laments the freeze on employment is negatively affecting the school. She made the appeal when the First Lady made a donation to the Ekropong School for the Blind and the Demonstration School for the Deaf in the Eastern region.
According to the headmistress of the Ekropong School for the Blind, the school has only 3 security personnel, 1 for day and 2 for night. She lamented the ban on employment is affecting the school and called on the First Lady to support the school.
The place is big, so mommy, for our sake, we need at least a security to be added. Now we have conservancy laborers. We have only 1 conservancy laborer. And you know, some of us, there are certain things that we could have done for ourselves if we could see. But because of our visibility, we couldn't. So we are also pleading.
First Lady Rebecca Ekufuado assured of government commitment to supporting education in the country.
I know that there's a lot of issues which are a problem for you. And government is doing its very best to help with these issues. But as you all know, government cannot do it alone. And I, as the First Lady of the country, as the Rebecca Foundation, and I've taken it upon myself to also play my part to help government.
The donation included 378 mattresses, 15 bags of rice, 10 boxes each of cocoa powder, sanitary pads and bags of sugar. Earlier, the First Lady had visited the Demonstration School for the Deaf, where she interacted with the teachers and pupils. The school also received 100 benches, 50 tables, 15 bags of rice, 10 boxes each of cocoa powder, sanitary pads, bags of sugar, and a Samaritan Prayers package which contained assorted items for kids. The assistant headmaster of the school, Goodluck Ekufupeli, appealed to the First Lady to help the school complete its dormitory block.
In fact, we have a line-up of students trying to be admitted, but because of our limited facilities, we're not able to meet them.
All right, so that'll be it for the bulletin. It came your way from our studio here at Adisawe. My name is Martin Asiedu-Dartey. Thank you very much for watching. Do have a good night. Bye for now.